So, check this out, people. Why I don't date women with children, especially male children, between the ages of 8 and 12. And I don't recommend it for any single man out there. Now, there's always an exception to the rule, right? There are women who know how to handle their business. There are women who know how to control their children. There are women who know how to discipline and teach their children. So, I was dating a woman once who had a son. At the time I met her, he was 10 years old. And he was a good kid. He was a really good kid. And of course, she was a single parent who was married at one point. And like most women, became single for whatever reason. And in this case, from what I understand, it had nothing to do with her. It was her husband who left. I don't know the story. I only know what I was told. And so the story goes like this, right? Again, this is why I don't date women with children between the ages of 8 and 12, especially male boys. Girls are a lot easier to teach. Girls are a lot easier to get along with. They don't seem to crave for the attention from a stepfather that the boys, I noticed, tend to crave for. And the problem with this is that most of these kids between the ages of 8 and 12 don't know how to act. And it's not their fault. It's the parents' fault, especially the single parent, the mother who wants to be single, who wants to have children out of wedlock, or for whatever reason, decides she doesn't want to be with her husband. So the problem with this kid was that he controlled the household. He ran the household. It wasn't just him who ran the household, but his sister, who at the time was 17, also ran the household. The mother had no control over the household. If we were watching TV and the kids were out and they came through the door, the first thing they would do is one would turn on the radio while we were in the middle of watching a movie. The other one would turn on his computer and start playing video games at full blast. And of course, I had to get up and walk away and leave because I couldn't watch the movie. This is just one of the examples of women who have no control over their household or their children. And what a lot of single women need to understand is that you're not going to find a good man. You're not going to find any man who wants to be around unruly children. You're not. If you find a man who wants you and who thinks you're someone he wants to spend his time with, and he meets your children or goes home with you or goes out to dinner with you and your children, and your son who's 10 years old doesn't know how to behave, doesn't know how to act, and you're sitting at the table out having dinner, and he's constantly kicking the table, constantly kicking it underneath the table, constantly, and no one has the sense to say, hey, please stop kicking the table because you're going to spill the drinks over. People are trying to eat. The mother doesn't say nothing. The older sister does say something, but because he doesn't respect his mother, he's not going to respect his older sister either. So I, in turn, say, hey, do me a favor. Please stop kicking the table because you're going to knock the drinks over. And of course, because he's not used to having anyone say anything to him, he cops an attitude. The whole table becomes quiet. Everything is awkward, not just for me, but for everybody else, because no one is used to hearing someone discipline this kid. Another example, we're on the bus and the kid is literally lying across the chairs and no one could sit. So I'm sitting across from him with his mother sitting to my left, and I say to him in a nice, polite, calm way, hey, sit up so others can sit. What does he do? He looks at his mother smiles, and then he looks at me with that look as if to say, my mother didn't say anything, why are you saying anything? And then he continues to lay there because he has no respect for his mother. He's not going to have any respect for me. Another example, we were at home at one point, and the mother, we were watching a movie, all of us. The kid was playing a video game on his iPod, the iPod that I bought him as a gift. He's playing his video games, and then his mother says, hey, can you do me a solid? Can you fetch me some water, right? And without looking at her, he simply says, no. Now, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for his mother to say something. What do you mean no? I asked you to fetch me some water. Get up and get me my water. Instead, there was silence. Not just from her, but from everyone else in the room. The older daughter, her boyfriend, and everyone else, including myself, because I can't say nothing. I realized that since the beginning, from the time we met, I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say, hey, respect your mother. I couldn't say anything because he would just look at her. She would smile and he would give me that evil look as if to say, you're not my father. So I didn't say anything. Instead, I waited for the next day because the next day I was supposed to go to his school and pick him up after school because he had asked me previously if I would go to his school and pick him up so that his friends can meet his American dad. That's exactly how he put it. So I said, yeah, no problem, I'll go. But after the incident, watching him and seeing and listening to the way he said no to his mother, I decided the very next day that I wasn't going to show up. And so his mother went to pick him up at school, and before she left, she said, hey, come on, we're going to go pick up so-and-so. And I said, no, you go ahead. I'm just going to wait here. Now, she didn't like that. She didn't like that, right? Because I had just promised her son that I would go and pick him up after school with his mother. So she picks him up, and they show up at the house, and the very first thing this kid says to me while I'm sitting there watching TV is, Tanko, you promised that you were going to come to school and you were going to pick me up so that my friends could meet my American dad. And I said to him, come here, sit down. And I pulled the chair next to me and I said, sit down. And I said to him like this, you remember yesterday when your mother asked you to do her a solid and get her some water and you said no? If you can say no to your mother, I can say no to you. Now, you had to see the look on his face because he was really shocked. The reason why he was so shocked is because, one, he didn't expect me to say that and to remember the incident that just happened with his mother. He was also embarrassed because he got the point. And the problem with a lot of parents, a lot of mothers, single mothers especially, is that they allow their single young boys to do whatever they want because they're the man of the house. They don't have a man in the house, and they're not used to having a man in the house, so the little boy is the man of the house. So he runs everything. And when a real man shows up and tries to discipline this kid, the mother doesn't like it. She wanted me to be an example to him. She wanted me to be a role model, according to her. She wants me to be a role model. But every time I would teach this kid or try to teach him, to discipline him, not physically, but mentally, so that he could learn and grow up to be a young man, a gentleman who knows how to act. A 32-year-old man who people can appreciate his company and not be like, damn, here this guy comes again. Nobody likes him. Because you have to instruct the child in his ways so when he is older, he will not depart. And so he was shocked and embarrassed when I said that to him. When I said to him, if you can say no to your mother, I can say no to you. When your mother asks you to do something, especially if you're playing a video game, all you have to do is hit the pause button, get up, get your mother her water, and then go back to your video game. You don't say no to your mother, especially around other people. Now, of course, his mother didn't like that. His mother didn't like that I was trying to teach her son how to be a gentleman, how to respect his mother so that when he is older, he knows how to treat his wife. She wants me to be a role model. She just doesn't want me to teach her son anything, talk to him, suggest anything. She just wants me to sit there, eat, and shut up. And I'm not going to roll like that with anybody. If I'm around a child who doesn't know how to behave, I'm going to check that kid. I'm going to let him know that he needs to grow up, that he needs to learn. And if the mother doesn't like it, find a man who doesn't care. Anyway, that's just one of the many incidents with this kid. One day, this kid was taking a dump. Now, mind you, this is not just within a short period of time. I've been dating this woman for at least 2 years. From the time my son was 10 to the time he was 12. And at 12, he was taking a dump. And he calls his mother. Ma. His mother goes to the bathroom and she wipes his ass. Now, she wonders why this kid doesn't respect. She wonders why this kid is going to grow up to be disrespectful to his wife and is going to expect his wife to do everything for him, including wipe his ass. So I said to her, did you just wipe your son's ass at 12 years old? Did you just go into the bathroom to wipe his ass? I said to her, do you know that when he goes to high school or junior high school, he's not going to know how to wipe his ass and he's going to walk around with a shitty ass and people are going to laugh at him? Other students his age are going to laugh at him because he doesn't know how to wipe his ass. Of course, she didn't like that. And maybe I should come off a little smoother, a little nicer. But it's so surprising to me and it catches me off guard that I can only say it the way I know how. And of course, she didn't like that because it's her house, it's her son, and she's going to raise her son the way she's going to raise him, right? Now, Every time she and I went out and brought her son with us, he always complained about being tired, about being bored, about being hot, and always wanted to go home. Always. We couldn't even go out for 15 minutes without this kid complaining and messing it up for everybody. Because the mother didn't have the sense to say, listen, we are all out. You wanted to come with us. Deal with it. Handle it. If not, this will be the last time that you come out with us. Instead, everybody has to pack their stuff and leave, because little man between the age of 10 and 12 years old controls everything. She doesn't have control over her kids. And if I suggested that we go out to dinner and I made the plans and I said, hey, let's go to this restaurant, and we plan it out and get ready to go to the restaurant, halfway to the restaurant, the kids would change their mind and would want to go somewhere else, and we would have to go somewhere else, because she didn't have the sense to say, we already made plans. This is what we're going to do. We can do that some other time. But this is why so many single women are unable to hold on to a good man, or any man for that matter, because they have children who run the household, who control the household, and they have no sense, no common sense to say, listen, you're a child. You don't call the shots here. I do. They don't have the sense to say that. Now, the last straw for me, before I decided I couldn't take this no more, I couldn't handle this no more, was one morning it was raining. And the mother kept the boy out of school that day. He didn't go to school that day because it was raining. Now, mind you, the school was only about 20 feet from the house. Literally 20 feet from the house. He just had to take about 20 steps and he'd be in school. But it was raining that day. He didn't go to school. She didn't send him to school because it was raining. She and I already had plans to do things during the day while the kids are in school. And because he didn't go to school, now we got to drag this annoying little boy everywhere we go. And I already knew what to expect. I expected disrespect from him. I expected him to kick the table constantly while we're trying to eat. I expected him to sit on the bus without regard to anyone else around him. I expected him to give me that evil look that says, you're not my father, if I try to talk to him, and to instill some respect and some type of quality that will help him grow up to be a gentleman. I knew I couldn't do that. And so when she calls him to come with us, I look at her and say, why didn't he go to school? Why didn't you send him to school so that we're able to do the things that we need to do while he's in school? You know we're not going to be able to do anything with him. We got to drag him along. He's going to complain about everything. He's going to mess it all up, and we're not going to get anything done. I was already fed up. I was already tired. I just couldn't take it no more. And I said that to her. He's going to mess everything up like he always does. All he does is complain. He doesn't respect. He has no manners. I can't talk to him. You want me to be a role model to him, but when I try to discipline him, you don't like it. So I said to her, he doesn't need my discipline. He has a father. He doesn't need me to be a role model. He has a father. Let his father be a role model, since I cannot be. And of course, that started a huge fight. And this 12-year-old little boy who has no respect for his mother, of course, has to put his 2 cents in while two grown-ups are speaking. And that's one thing that children should know from the beginning, is that when adults are talking, take a walk, mind your business, go to your room. Grown-ups are speaking. But she doesn't teach her son so that he doesn't know any better. So he puts his 2 cents in and tries to tell me how it is. A 12-year-old little boy. So I look at him and say, listen, you're 12 years old. Grown-ups are talking. You have no idea what's going on. You know nothing about the conversation. You need to be quiet and let the grown-ups speak, okay? Now, of course, the mother didn't like it. So she storms off with her son. And of course, I walk behind them because we already had plans. And I don't want to ruin everything because this little boy has no respect and she can't control her son. And of course, it's my fault. Not his fault, not her fault for not controlling her son, but it's my fault for trying to teach him how to be a man. And so, finally, we didn't even get halfway to where we were going. I simply turned around and walked back home and waited for them to come back. Within a few minutes, I packed my things and I left. That was the last time I ever went back. Now, single mothers, single women who have children, you have to understand something. If you want a man, and if you want a good man, a man who's willing to support you and your children, you need to allow this man to teach your child how to be a man. If he's a good man and he's willing to support you, pay your rent, pay your electricity, pay your cable, bring good things to your children, because I always did, expensive things on top of that. And even with that, they didn't have any respect for me, then it's not their fault, it's your fault that I left. It's your fault. If you have a good man and he leaves because you can't control your children, you're not going to find another man. You're not going to find a man who wants to stay. You will find a man that's going to hit it and quit it. You will find a man who may want to be around you, but doesn't want anything to do with your unruly children because they don't know how to behave. And then you will have to separate your time between your disrespectful kids and your good man, because you don't know how to check your kids. And when a real man tries to teach your children how to be polite, how to be gentlemen, so that they can grow up and know how to respect their wives, treat their wives well, and not expect from their wives more than what is required. You don't like that. You want me to be a role model. You want me to be an example. You just don't want me to say anything. You just want me to sit there, eat, and shut up. And this is why it never works out with women who decide to have children out of wedlock, who are not used to having a man around, who are not used to having someone teaching their children, who are not used to having someone to tell them how to act, how to behave. When a man finally comes around and tries to teach them that, they can't handle it. This kid could not handle direction. He couldn't handle conflict. The very first time I spoke to this kid, this was the conversation. Just to give you an idea of the bad situation that I was putting myself in. This is the conversation that I had with this kid the very, very first day. We met for the first time, and he says to me like this: there's this boy in school who's constantly bothering me. He's constantly bullying me. And I hate this kid. I don't just want to kill him from the outside, but I want to kill him from within. This kid was 10 years old when he said this to me. He said, I don't just want to kill this boy from the outside, but I also want to kill him from within. Now, I knew then that there was going to be serious problems with this kid. As far as I was concerned, our relationship, I knew that this kid could not handle discipline. I knew that he couldn't handle conflict. And I knew then that if I tried to talk to him, to discipline him, he was not going to be able to handle it. This is the type of kid that would grow up to become a serial killer. This is the type of kid who would grow up to be an abusive husband, because when he gets angry, he can't handle his rage. He can't handle it. One time, his sister, he was feeding his hamster chocolate, and his sister says to him, hey, don't give the hamster chocolate because chocolate is poison to hamsters. So he pretends to remove the chocolate away from the hamster, but keeps a little bit on his finger and allows the hamster to lick his finger. Now I'm sitting next to him and I say to him, listen, didn't your sister just tell you not to feed the hamster chocolate? If he dies, it's your fault. It's your fault. She just told you not to give it chocolate and you decide to do it anyway. This kid turned red, purple, green, yellow, orange. Every color in the book he turned. And he started to shake and rock his feet, his legs back and forth, back and forth. Furious. I've never seen a kid become this furious when you try to talk to him, when you try to discipline him, when you try to teach him. There was no getting through this boy. And this was an example. This is an example of parents who don't discipline their children, women who don't discipline their children, and then want to get into a relationship with a new man, any man, who's willing to take care of her and her children, but is unable to. This is why men leave. This is why men don't stay. And this is why men refuse to date women with children. This is why I refuse to date women with children between the age of 10, or rather 8 and 12. Now, if a woman has a child that's newborn, when I say newborn, I don't want to date a woman who has a newborn baby, because that's a problem. If a woman has a newborn baby and she doesn't have a husband or a boyfriend, that's not something I want to get into. But if a woman has a child who's 3 or 4 years old, I don't mind dating her, because a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old child is easily trainable, is easily teachable. He's still in that stage where you can talk to them, where you can discipline him, where you can guide him. Anything higher than that is a problem. Now, when a boy is 13, 14, 15 years old, I don't mind dating a woman, because when a boy is at that age, he could care less about the man who's around his mother, because he's busy doing other things that he could care less about being around his mother or being around this new man. He would rather be playing his video games in peace. He would rather be in his bedroom watching television. He would rather be out with his friends. You don't have to talk to him. He doesn't have to talk to you. Nobody cares. And so I don't mind dating a woman with a son who's 13 or older. But if he's a mama's boy and she's got to wipe his ass and he says no to her when she asks him to do something, or he doesn't know how to behave at the table, I don't want nothing to do with that woman. No man does. And this is why most women who have children are alone and will end up alone up until their children leave home. Because women who have children don't realize that these children are going to grow up, have families of their own, and they're going to forget about their mother because they're going to move on with their lives. But some women don't want to let their children grow. They don't want to let their children go. They don't want to let their children go. They want to baby them up until they're in their 20s. Not realizing that once he's gone, and he's not going to want anything to do with his mother. He's going to visit his mother once a week, once a month, and most of the time his mother's going to be alone. And instead of her using that common sense and saying to herself, listen, you're going to grow up and have a family of your own. I'm entitled to have the same. Your father left. Your father died. I need a man. You need someone who can guide you, how to teach you how to be a gentleman, how to be a man, a good husband to your wife. I need you to respect this man. I need you to understand that he's here. You don't run nothing. He doesn't run anything. This is my house. But he's second to me. And because he pays the bills and he supports you and he gives you good things, you need to respect him. That woman needs to side with the husband, with the new man in her life who's helping her raise her children. She needs to stand by him so that when he says, hey, you need to respect your mother, she needs to say, listen, you need to listen to him. He's trying to teach you something. Instead of her looking at him, smiling as if to say, it's okay, you don't have to listen, do what you want. And this is why ladies who have children out of wedlock, who have children because you had a one-night stand with a guy you just met the other day, or you met a guy a few months ago and decided that you wanted to keep him, so you got yourself pregnant, and now you have children that nobody wants to raise, including the father. This is why you're alone, because you don't know how to control your children. And instead of standing by the man who's waiting to take care of you and your children, you would rather say, you can leave. My son comes first. Your son does come first. Your son should be number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to any man. But in the end, if you don't teach your son to be a man, to be a gentleman, your son is going to treat his wife the way he treats you, like garbage. And if a man comes into your life and is willing to teach your child how to be a good man, how to be a productive man, how to use his time wisely, so that when he is older, he can put that time into his family, his work, his future, then you are not going to have a good life outside of your children. Once your children grow up and leave, you're going to find yourself by yourself, because you're not considering your future. Children grow up, and then they leave. Your job is to raise them and prepare them for life outside of the home, so that when they grow up, they are able to fend for themselves. You don't wipe their ass at 12 years old. You don't allow them to lay across the chairs on a bus, and when someone says to them politely, hey, sit up so others can sit, and then he looks at you, and then you say with a smile, it's okay. He's not going to respect anybody, let alone you. And this is why single ladies, most of you are alone. And I know you don't want to hear that, and I know you may not like to hear that, but it's the truth. You're alone because you have unruly children who you don't discipline and who you don't teach. And this is why men don't want to be with single parents.